Hello, and in today's video we are doing Premier League predictions for the 2024 to 25 season. And in this one we're going to be doing the biggie. It's predicting the final league standings, who are going to be the champions, who are getting relegated, and where will the surprise packages be in this new Premier League season. As well as predict the table, we're going to predict Matchweek 1's fixtures coming up this weekend. It's going to be an exciting one, so get your score predictions in the comment section below and get your table positions, and let's come back to this at the end of the season to see who can get all of them right. So we start off by talking about some of the transfer business that these clubs have done, and based on that is how I've calculated my table prediction. So we start off with Arsenal. Good piece of business with the signing of Riccardo Calafiori. He had a really good Euros with Italy, and it is definitely another strong defensive option for them. They've got a lot of depth in that position. The likes of Zinchenko has been rumoured to leave, but if he stays, that's an option for the fullback position. Obviously, you've also got Ben White, you can play it right back. You've got Gabriel, Saliba, who were the best centre-back pairing last season. And you've also got Kivior there as well, if need be, as well as the recovering Timber after his previous injury. So, yeah, it's a very exciting Arsenal defence. There is just that one thing missing with Arsenal, though. I still think they needed to sign that 20-goal-a-season striker, because Kai Havertz and Gabriel Jesus I still don't think are those. But you never know. It could be a close one again for Arsenal to try and win that title of Man City this season. And yeah, Calafiori is definitely a good signing. And Raya has been, made permanent after the loan from Brentford. Good player for them. Solid keeper. We know what you're going to get with David Raya, and it's a good shot stopper. So yeah, all in all, quite a quiet window for Arsenal, but they didn't have to do a lot of business. I think just one striker would have been the absolute cherry on the cake. But still, it's a very tasty cake. Obviously, Emil Smith-Rowe has left to go to Fulham. Which is a huge signing for Fulham, but it was understandable. He's been very unlucky with injuries, and Arsenal just haven't really found a spot for him. But we know, of course, how good of a player he can be with the game time. Moving on then to the rest of the teams, Aston Villa have had a very good window. I say that because I think some of their signings, like Amadou and Arna, are going to make a huge amount of difference in that midfield. Douglas Luiz is obviously a massive loss for them going to Juventus, but I think Amadou Onana, he showed at Everton how he can just be that central midfield cog and really can just dictate the tempo of a match for that midfield. So Villa, they will hope to have a lot more defensive solidity because of that. Talking of defence, Ian Maatsen coming in from Chelsea is a really nice piece of business. Obviously, had his spell at Dortmund last season, and he's a very attacking fullback, and he just gives another selection decision for Unai Emery to make. So this Aston Villa side, who did really well to secure Champions League football, they are going to have European games to contend with. So having that squad depth, having those options is going to be key. So some good business, I think, from Aston Villa. All in all, obviously we've seen Diaby also leave. So a couple of sales there for them. But all in all, a pretty solid window. Bournemouth have signed Julian Araujo from Barcelona, a fullback, very attacking. Could be an exciting player for them, for sure. Daniel Jefferson as well, from Sheffield United on a free transfer. Makes a lot of sense. He's, been a player that's done well for a young age, but he'll want some more game time. And with Dominic Solanke leaving, who knows, he could just get that. Luis Sinisterra as well, was a good signing from Leeds, and he could do well. And Enes Unal, who actually ended the season quite well, could well be the starting forward to start the season, but definitely had a good campaign. In terms of, obviously, Solanke, that's a massive loss. Lloyd Kelly's gone to Newcastle. Also, Kiefer Moore's gone to Sheffield United, which makes sense for him after, he's just not been getting the game time at Bournemouth. So, yeah, it's an okay window. Still very much, the jury's out on Bournemouth's transfers this summer, because a lot of them we're just not sure how they're going to get on. But how much will Solanke's departure hurt them? It could well hurt them a decent amount. Now Brentford, they've signed Igor Thiago as a centre forward option from Bruges. It's just unfortunate for him that he's now out injured. So that's a real blow. But Fabio Carvalho is a really good signing from Liverpool. Did really well last season for Hull City. So I think he's definitely got Premier League quality. And, Brentford in that attacking midfield, they do have options. They have a lot of good, solid midfielders in there like Jensen, Janelt, Norgard. But to just have that kind of attacking midfielder is probably a position they were looking for and they needed. So good bit of business there. We'll find out what happens with Ivan Toney, but at the moment he's sticking. And with regards to Brighton, Yankuba Minta is getting a lot of hype in pre-season. He's looked really, really good after arriving from Newcastle, barely played for them, but it was a deal that had to be done to kind of balance the books for the financial fair play. With regards to Brighton, obviously new manager, new era under Fabian Hürzeler. Will he be able to get them gelling? It will be interesting to see. Youngest ever permanent manager in the Premier League, so it's a bit of an interesting one for Brighton, but I think they should still be a decent side this season. Obviously, Undav has gone, as has Pascal Gross, so both of those, Germans have done well for the club, but it was, unfortunate for Brighton that it was time for Pascal to go at the age of 33, but he was a huge legend for that club. Lallana also went to Southampton. Chelsea have once again absolutely gone crazy with transfers like they always do, and their squad is just a ridiculous size. We know this every season, but Pedro Neto, we know he's really good at Wolves and he's been very, very unlucky with injuries, but on his day, his quality is for sure definitely up there, and he's at that peak level of his career now at 24. He can really, really thrive in the right system and at the right club. Whether Chelsea's the right club for him, I'm not sure, but we will see. Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, very good season for Leicester in the Championship. He just absolutely tore it up in the Championship, and whether or not he comes in at Chelsea and fits straight in, we'll have to wait and see. Let's just hope it's not another repeat of Danny Drinkwater where he just doesn't get any minutes and it's a bit of a waste. But no, I think Dewsbury-Hall, if he does get the minutes, should do well. And also Tosin Adrabaya is a really good bit of business. He's been wanted by a lot of clubs, solid centre back, and he should help Chelsea's defence out there. Obviously, with regards to Lewis Hall, he's made the move permanent to Newcastle, as has Amari Hutchinson, who did really well for Ipswich last season. Crystal Palace business, Ismail Assar's a really good piece of business. Obviously, did really well for Watford in the Premier League previously. And Daichi Kamada as well, which makes a lot of sense with, Glasner previously managing with, his previous club, South Frankfurt, I believe. And, he's got that relationship with him, so that does make a lot of sense. It will be interesting to see. There's been rumours of Zaha returning. I think it was Frankfurt when Hürzeler was Glasner was there. Just trying to have a look just to confirm that for you people. When was Glasner there? Yeah, it was Frankfurt between 2021 and 2023. So yeah, as I was saying, good signing from Lazio. And Olise is going to be a huge miss, of course, but at the end of the day, they've still done really well at the end of last season, and Mateta had a great season, end of the season. I still think Palace can do well. It's a bit about keeping hold of Eberechi Eze, who's been rumoured to go to Man City. Next up, we've got Everton. I think Jake O'Brien's a good piece of business. Solid centre-back. He's looked quite good since he arrived from Lyon. Iliman Ndiaye, who, obviously did really well for Sheffield United in the Championship the season before they got promoted. The season they got promoted. And also Jesper Lindstrom, could be a very, very good piece of business. Obviously, Anana's gone. Dele Alli's been released. So you understand that. He wasn't really going anywhere. Fulham, on the other hand, are really going somewhere under Marco Silva. And Emil Smith-Rowe is a really good bit of business for him and for Fulham. Very, very well-managed side. Very established in the Premier League now. And, yeah, Smith-Rowe's just an exciting player for them. Sessegnon's returned. Wonder how many games he'll get, but obviously, a favourite there, didn't get the time he would have wanted at Tottenham, so it makes a lot of sense, that move. He's still only 24, so he's quite young. The other thing I wanted to mention was in regards to the loss of Palhinha. That's going to massively affect Fulham. If it doesn't, I'd be extremely surprised, I'm not going to lie, because João Palhinha has been an absolutely key part of that team, that defensive spine for them. But you never know. I'd like to be proven wrong. Ipswich Town, yeah, Hutchinson's been made confirmed. Jacob Greaves from Hull is a good signing. And Liam Delap up front, as well as Arajanat Muric in goal for Ipswich after him being at Burnley previously. A few interesting signings, but all players who I think have got potential to do quite well. Then Leicester, a collie at centre-back alongside Decordova-Reid on the wing. And then Buonanotte is a really good pick-up from Brighton. It did really well in his brief time there. And he's very young, but it's a loan deal, so it's quite a low-risk one, that one. Ian Atcher's obviously moved on. Liverpool haven't really done any business at all this window. Other than for the goalkeeping position, Jaros. He's gone from under 21s to the main team, so it's not that much of a key thing there. Liverpool know they have a strong side and they can compete anyway, but yeah, new Slot era, Arne Slot. Let's see how he gets on. Man City, Savinho's come in. They have lost Julian Alvarez, which is a shame for them, but it seemed a sense of an inevitability about it. We got Man United. Lenny Yoro was a really good signing, and then he's got injured, so unfortunate there. And obviously, you see Højlund's got injured, so not ideal for Man United. But Matthias de Ligt is a really good bit of business at centre back, and hopefully for them, Mazraoui will do well in full-back position. In terms of outgoings, obviously Wan-Bissaka's joined West Ham, so yeah, he could do well there. I think he's always been a player who's got potential, who's not quite fulfilled that potential, but maybe at West Ham he could really do really well. And obviously Rafael Varane has moved on. In terms of Newcastle, Lewis Hall has been made permanent, which is good for them. Lloyd Kelly as well from Bournemouth, a little centre-back option for them. Yeah, a few good kind of low-key signings for Newcastle, but not the worst bits of business there. In terms of Nottingham Forest, they have brought in a few. Jota Silva is a really good, young left winger. 25, I say young, but he's got potential and could challenge, some of those wing spots with Hudson-Odoi and Elanga. Elliot Anderson from Newcastle's a decent bit of business, and they've also signed a new goalkeeper, Carlos Miguel, but let's see if it's him or Matt Sells in goal. Moving on, Southampton, Brereton Diaz is a good bit of business. He did quite well in a very poor Sheffield United team last season. Taylor Harwood-Bellis, done quite well at Burnley, but also has now succeeded at Southampton, and so to get him permanently is a good bit of business. And then they've also gone and signed Adam Lallana, as we mentioned previously, and Charlie Taylor from Burnley, who is always a solid fullback, even if he is getting on a little bit. He's experienced at this level. Tottenham have signed Dominic Solanke, which I think is a really good signing for them. Whether or not he'll get goals straight away, we'll have to see, but he seems to suit that style of play, that attacking play that Ange Postecoglou, if I can get the words out, loves to utilise. And Archie Gray is definitely one for the future, as is Lucas Bergvall. But then in terms of Wolverhampton Wanderers and West Ham, I mean, West Ham have had a really good window. So they're a bit higher up in my predictions based on that than I originally had them. But yeah, Max Kilman's a good bit of business, solid centre-back for Wolves. Somerville tore up the Championship for Leeds last season, and obviously was that breakthrough player for them in the previous Premier League season for Leeds. So yeah, he could do really, really well if he gets the game time. And Nicholas Füllkrug, we also saw impress at the Euros for Germany, and a centre-forward was something West Ham were absolutely crying out for. So makes a lot of sense, that transfer. And Wan-Bissaka we've already mentioned. And then Jean-Claire Todibo is a really good bit of business. Solid centre-back from Real Betis. Oh, sorry, from Nice. I was looking ahead at the one above. Look, very good centre-back. 24 at the peak of his career, but he's had a lot of high praise from a lot of people, a lot of managers. So I think he's a very, very good signing there. And finally, Wolves. They've brought in the new striker, Strand Larsen. We'll see how he gets on. And Rodrigo Gomez, who's looked good in pre-season from Braga. So, yeah, at the end of the day, quiet one for Wolves. Obviously, Neto being a departure is a big blow, but I think they can definitely still score the goals that they did last season. Hwang Hee-chan, Mateus Cunha, all very good players for them. So, yeah, I think it's been an interesting window. But how does that affect my Premier League table final prediction? Let me show you now. So here it is. We're going to go in reverse order. We'll start off with the relegation spots. So as you can see there, in 20th spot, I've gone for Ipswich Town. Now, the reason I've gone for Ipswich Town is because I think defensively they are still going to struggle. They are an attacking unit that, a bit with like Leeds under Marcelo Bielsa, they'll just absolutely try and score more goals than you, even if they concede a few. Leif Davis is a really good player for them, and he should do well at this level, a bit like Matt Doherty in the first season for Wolves, a bit like Alfie Doherty for Luton last season. So there's a lot of comparisons for this Ipswich side, and we know that Kieran McKenna has been outstanding in his short spell there, but yeah, I just don't think that the step up will be easily adaptable for Ipswich, and they might cause a few shocks throughout the season, but I just think they'll be so reliant on that home form, and away travelling teams will just fill their boots with goals. So as much as I want them to prove me wrong, Ipswich Town, I'm putting you in 20th spot. In 19th, we've gone for Nottingham Forest. Now, Nottingham Forest, last season, when Nuno came in, they did improve defensively. It was a good end to the season as well for Callum Hudson-Odoi, and Chris Wood had phases throughout the season. They are a very solid side, Forest, but I just feel like this season their time in the Premier League will come to an end. Their luck will run out, because I just think outside of Gibbs White, they don't have a talisman who can score goals, and I just worry they're going to let too many in. I mean, they've had chops and changes with goalkeepers. Whether Sells will stay number one, we just don't know, but I'm just not too convinced about their defensive capabilities this season up against the other attacking teams in the league. So that's why I've put Nottingham Forest in 19th spot. In 18th, we've gone for Russell Martin's Southampton. I think Southampton will struggle to keep defences tight for them, because it's ultimately a Southampton side that struggled a lot the season before last. When they got relegated, you thought, well, are they going to go up the first time of asking? They did through the playoffs just about, but I still don't think a lot of those defensive issues have been solved since that time. They did score a lot of goals last season with Adam Armstrong doing well, but is he going to do it at Premier League level? That's always been the question. He's got the odd goal here or there for Southampton, but he's not been an absolute prolific player in the Premier League. So I worry about where the Southampton's goals will come from. They have a lot of young players as well. So when you rely on a lot of youth, as exciting as that could be for the future, when you're launched into a Premier League season, it can be quite a baptism of fire. So I think for that reason, and Russell Martin, who's never managed in the Premier League before, I think it will be a big step up and a big adjustment for him to get that team safe in the first season. So I think they'll probably just about go down in 18th spot. In 17th, we've gone for Bournemouth. Now, Bournemouth last season under Iraola were very impressive. They took a little while to get going, but once they'd warmed up, They scored some really good goals and they played a really attractive style of football. But I think with Solanke leaving Bournemouth, and I think with one or two other players just looking a little bit, I don't know, unsure at Bournemouth, the likes of their goalkeeper situation with Neto and Travers, and he's not quite absolutely excelled in that position, either of them. And then their attack, Unal is okay, Semenyo in the attack there as well. It's a decent team, but I just feel like it might just run out, and it might be a second season syndrome sort of thing here for Iraola, where teams start to figure him out, his system, and I'm just not sure if Bournemouth will absolutely keep loads of goals getting in the back of the net. They won't find those ways of scoring goals, I don't think, this season, but I think they will have enough to stay up, so that's why I put them in 17th. In 16th we've gone for Leicester City. I think Leicester will have a good campaign under Enzo Maresca, who is a... I'm joking. Chill out, Leicester fans. No. Under Steve Cooper. Steve Cooper's a very solid Premier League manager. We know this. I don't think he's likely to, be able to give the solution for Leicester overnight. And it will be tough for Leicester fans. I just trolled you earlier about Maresca, but he was really good for them. So for him to have jumped ship straight away, it's unfortunate. But I think Steve Cooper is a very good Premier League manager, and I think he just knows how to make sides hard to beat. I think Leicester have got a lot of goals in them as well, through the likes of Fatawu, Mavididi, who was excellent last season. Declan Dover-Reid's a good bit of business. I just think they've got a very solid team, Leicester. So, yeah, I'm going to go for them in 16th. Then in 15th, we've gone for Everton. Everton always find a way to stay up every season. It's their last season at Goodison Park. And I think they do need goals. They've signed Njai. We'll see if he can really click in that attack. But they were one of the best defences last season, despite their kind of flirts with relegation yet again. They're not a bad side. They're just never quite, going off and really reaching their level of potential they would want to get to. So they're a bit of a kind of underwhelming team sometimes. But I think this season could do okay. They would be happy to have another season safe in the league, and I think as long as they don't get relegated into that new season with the new stadium next season in 25-26, then that would be a relief for them. They will want to push up higher in the table, but I just think it's really competitive in that kind of stage of the league and that position of the league. It's just there's a lot of good, decent teams there. So I think Brentford up next in 14th. Then Frank here, he does have to rely on Tony staying, but I think Brentford are a solid team enough that they can score goals, and I do feel that they do have defensive problems because Flecken, it was his first season, he had to adjust, didn't keep loads of clean sheets, but they've still got a very solid spine there, Brentford. We know that through how they recruit. They're very solid transfer policy, and they just have a solid group of players there that can do well for them. So I do think that they are going to be happy with 14th. In 13th spot, we've gone for Wolves. I think Gary O'Neill did a fantastic job for them last season. It wasn't the easiest of situations coming in, obviously so late before the start of the season, and he just got them really doing well from a kind of situation where they didn't have a lot of funds to invest in players, and yet they had a really good season, all things considered. So obviously Neto's going to be a big loss, but I still think he can get this side going again and scoring goals. It's just I'm not sure they're going to be pushing up the table much more than about 13th. So that's why I put them there. The next position we're going to reveal is 12th spot. We've gone for Brighton and Hove Albion. Now, obviously, new era under Fabian Hürzeler, as I mentioned, the youngest ever permanent Premier League manager, and that brings pressure with it. But will his new style of play get Brighton clicking? I think it might take a few weeks for us to work out how good this Brighton side will be under Hürzeler. But I still think they've got a strong enough squad that they can at least have a push for mid-table. Obviously, Joao Pedro had a good season in the first year at Brighton last time. He'll look to have another good campaign. I think that players like Minter could do really well. They've got a solid back line with players like Lewis Dunk still there. So I don't see Brighton having any problems this season. I think I'd be surprised if they do get dragged into much of a relegation battle. It's just whether or not they can push on, but I think it's going to be tricky with a new kind of system and a new manager. But they would be happy enough, I think, with 12th spot. In 11th, I've gone for Fulham. Now, Fulham, as I said before, really well-run club. Great manager, Marco Silva. He just knows what he's doing. Really exciting Fulham side now with the addition of Emil Smith-Rowe, who should really do well. Muniz ended the season really well as well, so I think he could have a really good campaign. And then, all around Fulham it's very positive vibes. It's just looking really strong in their squad. I think they've just recruited well, and they'll hope that the sale of their midfield maestro, as it were, Palhinha, doesn't affect them too much. But I don't think it will. Crystal Palace in 10th ended the season really well under the management of Oliver Glasner, and as I said, Eze is the key one here. If he does go, then Palace do have to kind of hit the reset button. Obviously, Elise already have left, and that's a big change. So I think Palace are good enough to still have a good season and not flirt with relegation, because they do know how to play exciting football, and they can score goals with the likes of Mateta and Edouard. So I do rate this Palace side. I think they definitely have a lot of potential to have a good season, a first full season if it is that, under Oliver Glasner. And then West Ham, 9th spot. I did have them lower down, but with the signings they've made in this window, I think they would be pretty happy with 9th. They'd probably want to push for 7th, but I think 9th is not far off. And, for a first season under Julian Lopetegui, I think that would be a decent finish. They don't have any Europe to contend with this season, which is quite a nice factor for them. So they've got, potentially less of a strain on the squad. But players like Mohamed Kudus had a really good first season. We also had a really impressive kind of piece of business with regards to Fulkrug. I think he could be their game changer in terms of that attack. If you have him, leading the line and scoring goals, that's a completely different West Ham side to what we used to, whereas they've relied on Bowen, being that number 9 in previous seasons. As good as he is in that position still, I think having more goals spread around that attack is going to be beneficial. So, West Ham, I think, should have a decent season. Then in 8th spot, we've gone for Newcastle. Newcastle, they could be higher up, but I think 8th is probably just about right, because you look at the teams above them, in the traditional Big Six, who have all kind of made big transfers. Newcastle will be hoping to keep hold of Gordon, who's been rumoured with Liverpool, but I just think Eddie Howe's just a very good manager. I don't see him leaving to go to the England job. I think they're just a very solid outfit. And, young players like Lewis Hall and Livramento and, actually Josh Murphy, or Jacob Murphy, I should say, or is it Josh? I always get confused. The two brothers has had a really good pre-season. So I think Newcastle could do really well. And Isak was just superb last season, so I don't see his goal-scoring form to end, really. So 8th spot for Newcastle. Then we go into the Europa spots, the European places. And in 7th, grabbing Europa Conference League is going to be Aston Villa, I think, because Unai Emery is a very, very good manager. I think, actually, this is a little bit lower than what I thought I might put Aston Villa at the start of this season. But I just look at the other teams around them, and I worry that with their Champions League involvement, that it might just mean their league form suffers a little bit as a result. But I do think it will be tight. Watkins had a fantastic season last year. Really was just so good all season. And players like Leon Bailey, players like Maatsen, who's come in, it's an exciting team, and I think they can definitely keep scoring goals the way that Emery side has got them doing. So I don't see any problems for Villa in terms of having a good season. It's just the teams ahead of them. It's not so much a comment about Villa's lack of form or potential. I just think it's the team ahead of them will want have a really good season. I think they've got potential to have that. So that's why I've put Villa in 7th. In 6th spot, grabbing a Europa League spot is going to be Manchester United, I think, because Ten Hag's got another season under his belt. He'll obviously be looking towards that top 4 and thinking he needs it. Now, I think the signing of Matthias de Ligt is actually a really good bit of business. We know he's always been a bit of a Rolls Royce of a defender, a centre back that United need alongside Martinez, where you've got the injury to Lenny Yoro. Maguire's just not cutting it at the moment. So, yeah, I think that's actually a really good bit of business. But outside of that, I do worry with Man United. They just haven't had a goal scorer, consistently across the season in terms of that strike, position in a number 9. I think Højlund goes through phases, but he's still very much a raw talent. So let's see how they get on. If they did bring in a striker, that would have probably bumped them up a bit higher, but they haven't. That I've been that excited by. I mean, Xerxes could do well in attack, but I'm just not sure. I'm not sure at the moment. Tottenham I've put in 5th because I think Ange did really well last season. At the end of the day, they wanted that Champions League spot. They didn't get it, but maybe this is the season that it will be much tighter. I just don't know if they'll be able to get it this time, though, because Tottenham Hotspur are a team, just the style of play they do, that is just too open and leaky. And as much as they can score goals at the other end, I just think it means you're always kind of backtracking in games and you're always one goal behind. So I think, Tottenham will finish 5th for that reason. But Chelsea in 4th, it's going to be tight. I think Chelsea are, often a team that's a bit ridiculed with the amount of players that join the club. It's just everything is not well behind the scenes. But I think this Chelsea side will have a more consistent season. Last year they had a lot of injuries, to be fair to them, and it was Palmer basically just carrying them for a lot of it. But I think players like Christopher Nkunku, he's now back fit. He could have a really good season. Players that have come in for them as well could definitely make the difference. Dewsbury Hall, maybe someone else, around that team that can give them that impetus. Maybe someone like a Neto could really help them get more goals and deliver more assists. So I wonder if João Felix will make the move as well, but they've just got enough players. I just think Maresca's a very good coach, first and foremost. He knows how to manage a squad, and it's one of those things with Chelsea where you think surely it's got to click at some point. I think this is the season for that to happen. I think they'll have a better season and finish in that Champions League spot, but it won't be enough to challenge the teams that are more likely to challenge for that title, including the likes of Liverpool, Arsenal, and Man City. So I've got Liverpool in 3rd. I think Arne Slot would be quite happy with that. It's not easy to challenge for the Premier League in your first season. I mean, you look at players like managers like Antonio Conte did it at Chelsea. You got Ranieri at Leicester, but that was a kind of one-off thing. It's usually very rare you see it. And we know Liverpool's squad is good enough to do that, but there just has to be an adjustment period under Slot to get them playing the way he wants them to and the way that works the most with their current squad. So, Liverpool have not made any signings, but they don't have to necessarily. It's just, I think they do need players like Darwin to have a better season, players like Jota to stay fit throughout the season. So it's these sort of things, these small details where Liverpool can make incremental improvements. But I think 3rd would still be a very decent season for them. In 2nd, I've gone with Arsenal. I think it's going to be very, very tight yet again for the title. But Arsenal are still just missing that one piece of the puzzle, which is that striker, that 20-goal striker. I don't think Jesus or Havertz are those players. Jesus, great link-up play, classic number 9, but he just doesn't have that clinical edge that he needs to give a team a title. Whereas, in that Man City side he was previously, he had players around him that could, score goals, and it wasn't all about him. Whereas with Arsenal, if Saka doesn't score, Ødegaard might create stuff, but you need someone to finish those crosses in from Saka. So I just think, that striker is what they need, but it hasn't come yet, and until it does, I just don't think Man City will be stopped. Unfortunately, I predict a 5th title in a row for Man City because their team is complete. Now, window-wise, it's not been great for Man City. They've obviously lost Alvarez and Savinho's the only one that's come in, but their team wasn't a problem before that. So I get you want to strengthen each season, but Man City are just a joke. And, Gvardiol had a great end to the season. Haaland's still going to score loads of goals. I don't see it much changing. But I'd love to be proven wrong. I'd love Arsenal to win the league. Will it happen? Not what I'm predicting. So those are our table predictions for the 2024-25 season. Now let's get into my match week 1 score predictions. And then we will end off the video by quickly giving our top scorer, most clean sheets and most assists this season. So, what are we saying for match week 1's fixtures then? We've got first up, Man United against Fulham. I'm going to go for a 2-0 win here to, believe it or not, Man United. I know, shock horror. No, I'm joking. They wouldn't keep a clean sheet. Now I'll probably go 2-1 Man United. Muniz to score for Fulham. Then Man United's goal scorers, we will say Diogo Dalot, and we will also say, I'm going to go for, how about a bit of an own goal from Castagna. Moving on to the next fixture then, we have got, and that is Ipswich Liverpool at Portman Road, 12:30 kickoff on TNT Sports. I think Ipswich will struggle, as I've put them 20th. I think Liverpool will do well under Slot. I think Ipswich 1, Liverpool 3. Trent Alexander-Arnold to score the first for Liverpool, then Jota to score the second. Ipswich hit back with a goal through Connor Chaplin, but then they finish it off with a third goal from none other than Mr. Darwin Núñez off the bench. Next up, we've got a game between the likes of Arsenal and Wolves. Arsenal, I think, will have a strong season again. Wolves, they've got a few players that they're going to be waiting on to come back. I think Wolves will struggle here. 2-0 Arsenal. Then Everton-Brighton, we've gone for 1-1 draw there. Newcastle-Southampton, we've gone for a 3-0 Newcastle. Forest-Bournemouth, 2-0 win for Bournemouth there. West Ham-Villa, going for a 1-2 win for Aston Villa. Brentford-Palace, we're going for a 2-1 win for Palace. Chelsea-Man City should be a great game on Sunday. 2-2 is my prediction. And finally, Leicester-Tottenham, we've gone for a 3-1 win away for Tottenham. So those are our score predictions for match week 1 of the new season. Now, quickly, our top scorer is going to be Erling Haaland. Sorry to bore you, but the guy's an absolute joke. Most assists, though, I'm going for most assists to actually be from an Arsenal player and not Ødegaard, but instead, I think it will be, hear me out, right? Declan Rice. I've got a feeling that Declan Rice is going to have a stupid season for assists. And I don't know why, but I just got that feeling, so trust me on this one. Most clean sheets, though, I'm going to go for Liverpool. Again, a surprising one under a new manager, but I just feel that Liverpool's defence this season will be much better than previous seasons. So that's what we've gone for. Haaland, Rice, Liverpool. So therefore, Alisson gets the Golden Glove. And therefore, that's where we're going to end the video. Get your score predictions for match week 1 in the comments. And where's your table predictions at? I want to see where you're putting each team. Thanks for watching the video. Have a good day. Thanks for watching. See you next time.